So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Again, you might want different colors or different saturations. That goes in more lighting, concepts. So you want a darker general light and brighter contrasts. You can definitely do that. Again, it's all about color theory, lighting theory, which is a whole deep dive topic, which I would say a noob at. I'm not an expert. I can get the basics down. Like in this scene, my primary light is orange and my shadows are blue. Basic contrast. The background might be too blown out. If you feel that is the way, you can also play with your fog to reduce the amount of blown out happening. So for example, I just reduced my fog density to 0.02 and it's not as blown out. Back to 0.15. You have more bloom and blown out lighting, which I kind of like for this scene. You can change the fall off of the fog itself. A lower fall off is bring the intensity of the scattering of the light, so maybe 2 is probably just fine. We can play with the scattering distribution. Maybe it's too much scattering of light, or maybe you want more scattering of light. Actually, that looks pretty cool. But maybe we can reduce the extinction scale so it's not as bright, and reduce the scattering intensity. Because I can sit there tweaking all day. I don't want to waste your time with that. But the last point I want to make is point lights. Obvious enough. Point lights can be used to light your scene, but it's much better to go with dynamic lighting as we've done here. But point lights are great for unique lights that are isolated to a certain spot. So to do some point lighting, if we need it for the scene, we can go to our content browser, and maybe there's a screen here called SMCOG Underground Console Monitor. And let's lock our scale, make this like 3, even like 7, just so it stands out. I'm just gonna slap it on the wall over here. Maybe 7 might be too much. Let's go to 5. Again, I'm not trying to build scene, it's more of lighting. And maybe 1 on this side. It's my OCD to make sure they're not floating. And they are not really present in our composition angle. So let's adjust that. Alright, so 1 is hidden behind the trees. Let's not worry about that one. But we have that screen over there. So I wanted to have some light emitting off of it. So I can go to Window, Place Actors, Lights, Point Light. By default, the point light has a very large radius and intensity, and they're casting shadows by default. Having 1 point light cast shadows is not a bad thing, but too many point lights overlapping casting shadows is bad, so don't do that. But let's lower this radius, because we only want it to come from the screen. And since it's kind of a bluish color coming off of that screen, we can punch up the blue color of the light. And we can now increase the intensity. It's at 8, let's say 15. And we can change the indirect lighting intensity to 2. And you play more with the color. We crank up this intensity to 30. So it doesn't really affect much of the scene because that's already in shadow, but it's an example. Well, let's try a different actor. Go to content, this cog underground console panel, little red button thing. Let's scale it up to, let's say 3. And the pivot's off, but it's not a big deal. Pivot. Set pivot offset here. I'm going to try to center this little metal piece here. Duplicate one over here. You see these little information things. I didn't realize those. We can just right click, select all BP commentary box, and just delete so they're not floating. Yes, they're connected to level blueprint. We're not worried about that. Just delete those because they're in the way. And I'm going to go back to our window, place actors, lights, point light. And again, this is a very large radius. We want to shrink it down. And maybe really crank up that red. Something more of a purple vibe. There we go, that's better. And the hex value for that will be on the screen. And again, this is casting shadows because it's a very small radius. So there, those two lights are now red, and there's a little bit of red light. We can even duplicate these guys over just a bit. Turn off cast shadows. Increase their radius just a bit. Just kind of faking it. I don't need those. But in a way, you can see that those two lights are using point lights are generating red, but they're not blown out to the whole scene. They're just isolated to where the red lights are. We give this one a bit of a blue. We can actually change this and give it more of a white color. And maybe the intensity is maybe about 35. But now those lights are not dynamic. They need to be rebuilt. So build your lighting. And there you go. That is the basics of lighting as a designer. Like, I like to use a lot more dynamic lights, a lot less point lights, but you can use point lights for fill lights if you wanted to. For example, maybe I want more blue behind this tree. To just exaggerate it, you can use a point light. Go to our place actors, lights, point light. Turn off cast shadows. Bring the radius back just a bit. Pull it back here. Crank up the blue darkness values. That value is on the screen. And maybe increase the intensity or lower the intensity because I don't want too much light coming from the back. And build. So I think that looks pretty good. Would I say it's perfect? No, because I can sit there playing with values all day, but I don't want to waste your time. But that is the basics of lighting a designer. Again, it takes a lot of understanding of light concepts, light theory, color theory, which is a whole deep dive, and I don't think I'm an expert at it all, but I can get by. So hopefully this tutorial will help you also get by to create lighting for your scenes, and maybe talk to your lighting artist to like, hey, I want to do this, help me make it better. But again, as I said at the start of the video, if you have lighting artists on your team, let them do their thing, but learn from them as well. Don't destroy their lighting to make what you like. They're an expert at the thing, but learn from them and understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. But hopefully this tutorial has been helpful to give the basics of how to do lighting in Unreal Engine 4. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I will try my best to answer them. But with that in mind, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in the next video or tutorial. Bye.